social media age. You guys are pretty much the gang who grew up on this stuff, like the way we grew up on, the way I grew up on tapes, cassette tapes. They were, you could, never mind. Anyway, what's my story? I was in grad school in Santa Barbara, California, studying fashion and portrait photography in the early 90s. Because in the early 90s, when I was 21 years old, walking around the beach with a camera in Santa Barbara was a great way to meet women. And yeah, sure it was. You can laugh. I'm actually really funny. Sarah will tell you I'm hysterical. So I had I'll go over here. So I had a bunch of credits, about 18 credits to go for my graduate degree in fashion and portrait, and I got a letter from the government that said they were taking away from my financial aid because my parents made too much money. And I sent the government back a letter that said they do make too much money, but they keep it. And the government didn't find that funny. So I have 18 credits to go on the graduate degree that I never finished. So I moved back to New York, and I was hanging out in something called the America Online TV Gossip Chat Room, which none of you know what it is. But imagine like twittering about girls, the TV show or whatever, but it's in front of a big screen, it's connected to a big thing on the bottom. This is what we did. We hung out and we hung out in chat rooms in the 90s. And someone in that chat room worked for America Online, and they said, my company's trying to build a newsroom, I want you to make a resume. And I moved down to Virginia with absolutely no experience, and I became the first editor of the newsroom at AOL. AOL back then was the internet. Like, it wasn't on your phone, it was on a little CD-ROM, and it was AOL. All my friends at the time thought, wow, Peter's, he works for the internet. Like, I went into a room with a door that said the internet on the door, and that's what we did. But it was pretty cool because it was the first time that I saw this massive thing that was going to change the world. And I was right there at the beginning of it. It was pretty awesome. I was actually there so early that I had the screen name Peter at AOL.com, which back then was pretty cool. And I thought it was pretty cool until I realized I could never use it because the inbox was always full of like misdirected emails from people. Because everyone was getting on the internet. They thought, oh, my friend Peter just got on the internet. He must be Peter at AOL.com. And so every Friday we'd open up a 6-pack of beer in the newsroom and we'd project my computer onto the wall and we'd read all the misdirected emails. I'll tell you guys, there's some Peters in this country doing some freaky ass shit. But so I worked at AOL for a few years and learned this really valuable lesson that, you know, trust the concept and embrace the concept, but don't embrace the brand. What do I mean by that? Well, back in the day, we thought AOL was the bomb. We thought that was it. AOL was going to be the internet. Everyone was going to be on AOL. I was going to be using AOL. We never thought that like the web would appear. We never thought that like apps would appear. You know, I had a cell phone. It's about the size of like you at the time. It was like a Zach Morris cell phone from Old Saved by the Bell episodes, and it was ridiculously big. And you couldn't do anything on it except make a phone call when it worked. And you know, everything that there's a great 1987 Radio Shack commercial or advertisement that shows like 55 different products, from like a music player to a boombox to a calculator to a computer to a microprocessor, all this stuff. And like, I think the total cost of everything in the ad was like $28,000, and everything in that ad fits in your phone now. And that's like 97, 07, not even 30 years ago. So the concept that don't get too comfortable with whatever you think is the best thing now, because it changes radically. How many of you have a MySpace page? How's that working for you? So, you know, understand that like we are in an industry right now, and you're going into an industry right now where things are just moving ridiculously fast, like faster than you can imagine. And the best possible advice, one of the best possible pieces of advice I can give you is to keep up, is to read everything. Get up a half an hour early every day. I know that's, if someone had told me that in college, I must be high, but try to get up a half an hour earlier and just go online and read what's happening in the world. Or on your phone when you're waiting for the subway or whatever. You know, go to google.com or news.google.com/tech, you know, and read the latest rumors that are coming down the pike. Read the latest stuff. A year and a half ago, or 2 years ago, when Steve Jobs died, everyone thought Apple was dead. Apple this morning announced they're the first company to break the $720 billion $720 billion market capitalization on the stock market. That's more than countries. Like there are a lot of countries worth less than an Apple computer. So understand that. You know, understand that like I was an Apple guy back in 92 on a Macintosh SE. It had 20 megabytes. It had a 20 megabyte hard drive, and I upgraded it so it had 4 megabytes of RAM. And that thing was the bomb. I mean, I had my friends would come in every night. We'd play games on it, and Apple was dead, and then Windows took over. And you could have bought Apple stock for I think the lowest it went was $6 a share, and now they're worth $711 billion. So it's something to think about. So we live in a world of social. That's not going to change. What is going to change is how we interact with it and what we do with it. And a couple of things to think about in that regard. No matter how good the tech gets, or no matter how interesting it is, or how small the phones get, or whatever, nothing is going to replace, and nothing is going to build or detract from you and your brand more so than you. What do I mean by that? Well, you could have the greatest Facebook page in the world, you could have the most tricked out corporate website in the world, you could have everything that could be perfect. But if you're not being brilliant at the basics, you're going to have a bad time. So what do I mean by being brilliant with the basics? Well, here's a stat for you. 1 out of every 2 corporate homepages in America today has a spelling or grammatical error on the homepage. I should stop and think about that. These are people who are writers who are hired to project an image of the company, and 1 out of every 2 of them have screwed up, and it reflects on that. So when I say be brilliant with basics, things like writing, things like grammar, stupid shit that computers were supposed to take care of for us. They don't, because we live in a world where you can spell one word 16 different ways and it can mean 47 different things. So we haven't reached that point yet. So the concept of spelling, grammar, being a good writer, having a good vocabulary, things like that cannot be overestimated enough. The people who are succeeding today, the people who are being hired today, well, I'm hiring. I'm not hiring because they know how to use Facebook. I'm hiring them because I can put them in a room with a pen and a paper, pencil and paper, and they will still write me a great story, or a great press release, or a great whatever it is they need. The social tools, anyone can learn that. Basics are hard. And I encourage you to focus on the basics. So I'm going to give you 4 basic rules. I wrote a book that came out about 2 weeks ago called Zombie Loyalists. And it's all about how businesses are creating these customers who love them, who will do anything for them. What's your favorite restaurant? Yeah. What is it?
It's like a sushi.
Okay, where is it?
It's in Chelsea.
Okay. How often do you go there? So when someone like suggests, say, where should we go to dinner? Usually drop in with, oh, William.
Yeah.
You're a zombie loyalist. Does that come? You like them, you love the food, they can treat you well, maybe they know who you are. You go back a lot. The economy of the next 50 years, and the economy that you guys are all going to be working in until you retire, is based on the concept of experience. It's no longer about price, because there's no different chance of different price between the sushi place you go to and love and the sushi place 3 blocks away. They're the same price. The reason you're going there and you love it so much is because of how you're treated. So I wrote this book called Zombie Loyalists, and the basic premise is that we expect to be treated like crap. Who flew recently? Who was on an airplane recently? Anyone take a flight? Anyone ever flown? Anyone know what an airplane is? How was your flight?
Good time.
Good time?
Excuse me.
Why was it a good time?
I was with all my teammates and we kind of just hung out.
Was the flight on time?
Yeah, it was on time.
You had your seat that you wanted? You had the seat that you chose? They gave you the right seat?
Yeah. I was on the aisle, so it was
You didn't get an anal probe from the TSA?
No.
No? Okay. So you basically they gave you exactly what they said they would. Your contract of carriage with that airline said, I will show up at the right time and you will fly me at a certain time to a place. And you won't crash the plane. You'll give me the seat I want, you'll get it. And that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
And you're here thinking it was a great time.
Everybody regretted to tell me, forgot to tell me that he had to go to Chicago before coming back to New York, so that kind of sucked. But besides that, it was a good flight.
It was a good flight because it was a normal flight.
Yeah.
Problem is, we expect crap. We don't expect a normal flight. We expect to be stopped at the TSA for some stupid shit. Right? We expect to have to go to the gate only to find out they moved it to like the other end of the airport. and then we have 4 minutes to run our ass off to get there. We expect that our seat, which was like 13D or 12D, is now like 34th bathroom. And there's nothing we can do about it. We know they're not going to give us any peanuts, any pretzels. They're not going to give, if they give us a free soda, we're lucky. That's the experience we expect. So you're happy because your experience was normal. Like, you didn't crash, you got there on time, and you had the seat you want. Think about the last time you were pissed off about something and what you did. You probably tweeted it or posted it on Facebook and complained. Think about the last time you got something better than someone else. Last time you were upgraded on a plane. The last time the bartender gave you a free drink because he said you were cute. Whatever it is. These are the things that are experiences. And the internet and the economy behind it for the next 50 years is going to be powered by experiences. Or in other words, powered by 2 things. Bragging or drama. Those 2 things basically power the internet. If you look at your friend's post, you don't have to scroll far on Facebook to find someone complaining about something. Okay? On the flip side, you also don't have to scroll far enough to find someone being happy about something. Oh, I got floors, they upgraded me to floor seats, and seeing whoever. Or, oh my god, they couldn't find my tickets and I can't get it, I'm so angry, and screw Ticketmaster, and screw them. We love to complain, and we love to gloat. That's what we do. And that's going to drive the economy. How? Because in the next couple of years, the concept of friending someone is going to go away. Friend requests are the most awkward thing in the world when you think about it. You know the last time your friend requested someone in the real world was? 2nd grade. Will you be my friend? Okay, I have a 21-month-old daughter right now who's learning about that. She walks up to, like, my cat, friend? The cat sort of looks at her and goes away. She walks up to a tree, friend? I'm like, honey, that's a tree. But, she walks up to a kid in her preschool or pre-preschool or whatever, friend, and they sit down and they paint stuff or whatever. So she's learning how to socialize. We all already know how to do that. We shouldn't have to request someone's friendship online. It's very awkward. The next few years, it's going away. If I meet Sarah at, I've never seen her before in my life, and I meet her at a bar or something like that, and I get her cell phone number, or I get her email. And right now, regular times, I'd have to go, I'd have to find her online, hope it was the right person, ask to be her friend, she'd have to approve it. A little awkward. The next couple of years, it's going to be automatic. Who has an Android phone? What happens when someone texts you? If you get a text from someone that you don't know, and they're on Google Plus, and you're on Google Plus, it automatically fills in their information into your address book. Automatically. They just send you their phone number, all of a sudden you know their name, phone, email, everything they've entered. That's what's going to happen in the next few years, is that when I interact with you, if I meet Sarah and I say, hey, it was great meeting you, she gives me your cell phone number, I give her mine, I text her, all that information is pre-populated. And then I said, hey, it was great meeting you, do you want to grab a drink sometime? And she goes, sure, I'd love to. The network, Google, Facebook, whoever owns the network, I'm hoping they merge and they call themselves for Google, but whoever owns that network is going to say, okay, he said it was great meeting you, she said I'd love to have a drink. That's positive sentiment. So I'm going to make a connection between Sarah and Peter. We meet at the bar a couple days later, we have that drink, the network knows where we are based on our phones, knows that we're together. I call her a couple days later, I text her a couple days later, hey, it was great meeting you, you want to grab dinner sometime? Sure, I'd love to. Again, positive sentiment. Well, by the time I make the reservation on an open table and both our names and we meet for dinner, the network has made 10 touch points between the 2 of us. It says, okay, you know what, they're friends. I'm not the friend. She doesn't have to friend me. As long as we keep hanging out, or talking, or texting, or whatever, or emailing, the network will continue to have us as friends in the network. If I ever do something stupid, and she stops talking to me, I've known her for years, she's done it many times. If she stops talking to me, we start to fade away. She doesn't have to unfriend me, we're just going to fade away. Until we're not connected anymore. Because everyone you meet in the next few years, from the guy who changes your oil, to the people in this class, to your professors, to me, if we interact in some capacity, online or off, we'll be in each other's networks. How relevant we'll be to each other is determined by how we interact with each other. So think about that for a business. Who's handling social for a company right now? Who's done internships or worked social for companies? Raise your hand if you've done anything. So imagine if the people who, what company was it?
Me?
Yeah.
Randolph Engineering.
Okay. So imagine if someone had a really bad experience with you and started complaining online. That would virally go out to everyone in their network, not because they're posting it, but automatically. Anyone looking for an experience with some sort of engineering firm would automatically see that that is not to be recommended. But if they had a great experience, it would be the complete opposite. You'd go there. It's happening already on Google. If you go to Google Maps and you type in, like in certain cities like New York and San Francisco, if you're on Google Plus, yesterday I was in Las Vegas to give a speech, and I typed in steakhouse near me. in Google Maps, and it showed me not only the steakhouse near me, but it also showed me where my friends had gone and the experience they'd had, good or bad. They didn't have to leave a review. All it did was show me, hey, you know what? Your friend Mark went to Ramsey's Steakhouse, whatever, in Bellagio. He loved it. Here's some photos. Here's what he put on Twitter. You should like it. You're friends with him. Do you want me to make a reservation? All in one. So the experience you have at a restaurant, at a bar, and any sort of customer experience is going to determine whether or not your friends see that place as a recommendation. So as you guys move into the workforce, and you're in charge of creating that recommendation, that personification and that identity of the company for good or for bad, I'll give you 4 rules that I think will help. First rule is that you are going to screw up. How you handle it and how transparent you are will determine how bad it is. Anyone remember Anthony Weiner? And remember Elliot Spitzer? So Elliot Spitzer was the governor of New York, and he got busted for having sex with the very prostitutes he was supposed to be putting away. When he did that, the New York Times called him and said, hey, we're running a story on you, we know what you've done, you're kind of in trouble. And he went, okay. And he got up on stage, and he resigned, and he was out of the country within 2 days. You could not find him in. He was like, I screwed up, my bad, see you. He was gone. He'll be back in office in about 5 years. Because there's nothing we love more in this country than after putting someone down than raising him back up again. He apologized, he was contrite, he'll be back. Anthony Weiner, on the other hand, for those who don't know, he was going to be the next man. This is not even a question. He was a lot to be the next man. He had the family, he had the looks, he had the power, he had the backing of Hillary Clinton. He was going to be the next man. It was his to screw up, which he did. Had he just come out the day that the story broke about him twittering and sexting all these women, had he just come out and said, you know what, I was trying to have some sex time with my wife, I don't know how to use Twitter, I'm an idiot, we would have laughed at him for 8 hours, because in New York City that's required by law. The New York Post would have published some stupid headline, and I would have moved on, would have forgotten about it. All he had to do was apologize. Own it, and apologize. But he didn't. He made it a spectacle. Remember, it was an 8-week debacle. He blamed the media. He blamed hackers. I remember I was about to go on the O'Reilly Factor to talk about it. I'm in the green room watching him on TV, and he goes, he's at a press conference, like, yeah, I must have been hacked. It was a hacking job. And my first thought was, okay, they hacked your zipper. But then, I remember this is a funny story actually, I'm standing next to Geraldo Rivera, of all people. And you know this funny story? I'm standing next to Geraldo Rivera in the green room, and I look at Geraldo, I'm like, this is bullshit. He wasn't hacked. He wasn't important enough to get hacked 3 weeks ago. No one knew who he was 3 weeks ago. He wasn't hacked. Geraldo goes, oh, yeah, that's very interesting. And Geraldo goes out to do the A block of O'Reilly, and I was doing the C block. And he gets out there, and they start filming, it's live, and Bill O'Reilly says, so Geraldo, what do you think about this supposed hack that he says he has? And Geraldo says, no, Bill, I've been thinking about this a lot. I don't think he was important enough to get hacked. I'm sitting there going, you son of a bitch. So Geraldo steals content. But, you know, own it. You're going to screw up. The best thing you could possibly do when you do screw up is own it. I mean, in the perfect world, it would be great not to screw up in the first place, but you're going to screw up. You're human. Anyone know who Justine Sacco is? You remember that name? She was the head of corporate communications at Interactive Corp, Barry Diller's company. She was set like probably 3rd down the chain of really important people at Interactive Corp, publicly traded company. She was probably making $250 a year, $300 a year. She had a pretty decent job. She made a joke. She was going to South Africa, where her family was from, for Christmas. And she tweeted out a joke before, this was 2 years ago, she tweeted out a joke, you can Google her. She flew from New York to Frankfurt, and then Frankfurt to South Africa, and she tweeted out a joke before she got on the plane in Frankfurt that said, going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS. Just kidding, I'm white. Ha ha ha. It was totally horrible. It was totally offensive. So she goes and she tweets this out. And then she gets on the plane and doesn't have internet access for 12 hours. Well, someone at Gawker sees this tweet like 20 minutes after she takes off. Anyone remember this? And the world explodes on this poor woman. Like, the #1 trending topic on Twitter worldwide was, has Justine landed yet? Can you imagine, you get on a plane in Frankfurt and everything's cool and you're about to take 2 weeks off and have a great time, and you land and you are public enemy #1. She had 400 people, from fans to just gawkers to like media, waiting for her when she landed in South Africa. She walked off that plane, went through immigration, and was like, what the is going on here? her family couldn't even get to her. She was that mobbed by the media. Can you imagine that? You're just on a plane, man. You're sleeping, you're chilling out, you're about to go get some rays. What the hell is this? So, in the 12 hours that she was in the air, she became this huge villain. She got fired. Okay, and she landed in an entirely different world than from when she took off. It's like Narnia. So, think about the actions that you take and what possible repercussions they could have. When I go out, I go out a few times a year to drink. I don't drink a lot, but when I go out and drink, you know, I go with some friends who are usually British or Welsh, and they drink like fish. And I go out, and I don't bring my phone. Because something that I think is funny at 2 in the morning isn't. 2 in the morning after 5 glasses of tequila is not funny no matter what you think. Okay? It's like when you hear that song, you know, you're 5 drinks in, you hear that song, oh my god, this is like the greatest song. You start tweeting out like 15 lines of the song. Because it speaks to you, man. No, it doesn't. You're drunk. You gotta be smarter. If cameras and camera phones and security cameras existed in the 80s the way they do today, I'd be giving this speech via Skype. Some minimum security prison somewhere in like Pennsylvania or something. You gotta be better. And here's the beautiful part. The beautiful part is that most people are stupid. Most people are truly idiots at how they put themselves online. You all saw the woman a couple days ago, Sunday night, who tweeted, have to start this shit job at this pizza place, and then her boss happened to see it and tweeted back, no you don't, because you're fired. How the hell do you get fired before you even start your job? So be transparent. Understand that anything you post for business, for work, for personal, whatever, is going to live forever. It's going to be out there, it's going to live forever. And we are a society that loves to mock people. We mock them for about 5 seconds until something new comes along, but we will mock. And the best thing you can do is ask yourself, is this going to piss off anyone? And if it is, don't post it. I'll take it a step further. Imagine you have a job, and you're working, and you're the public face of a company or something like that. It doesn't matter if you're off duty, or if you're not working, or you're on your own time. You are associated with that company, okay? And you need to be careful. So that's transparency, that's rule 1. Rule 2 is the concept of relevance. Relevance is important. How many of you get your news from the newspaper? Anyone read the papers anymore? I still get the Sunday Times. I love it. Anyone read the newspaper? Okay. What do you read?
I read the Times.
Okay. How many of you get your news from, like, TV? You watch the Today Show? No, it's a trick question. It's not really. What about, now my wife watched the Today Show, and it's like, it just seems like every time I go into the bedroom when she's getting dressed, it's something about Bieber or something. Like,
Yeah, it's not like.
I'm like, there's fighting in Kosovo. She's like Bieber. But so how do you get your news from radio? Maybe as you're driving, like 1010 Wins, or you guys are missing out. 1010 Wins.
A
Web.
sentence that's never been said
See,
before.
I love 1010. I grew up on 1010 Wins. Web, internet, Twitter, podcasts. Anyone? Okay. Back in the 50s, people got their news 2 ways. The morning newspaper and the nightly news. That was it. The morning newspaper and the nightly news. The average age of the nightly news viewer in 1955 was 31 years old. And about 85% of the country watched the nightly news. You know what the average age of the nightly news viewer is tonight? Or it is today? Anyone? Take a guess, round number. Anyone? 50? 60?
60.
Dead. The average age of the nightly news viewer today is dead. No one's watching the nightly news anymore. Anyone watch Family Guy? It's a great scene where Tom Tucker, the newscaster, says, "Welcome to the 10 o'clock news," rehashing what you heard on Twitter 6 hours ago. When Bin Laden was killed, I was in a hotel room in South Carolina or something. I remember I texted you. And I said, and we heard like 2 hours ago on Twitter that that's what the president was going to announce. And we were all expecting him to come out on stage and my fellow Americans tonight, I saw on Twitter that we got Bin Laden. You know, the concept of the traditional news cycle is dead. So that means your audience has a million different places to get information. and a million different ways to get information from you. I used to run a company. I started a company in 2007 called Help a Reporter Out, or Harrow. And Harrow sends out emails every day with queries from journalists all around the world. Like you can answer them, you can get in the papers or on TV. And what I learned from, by the time I sold Harrow in 2010, we were sending out 250,000 emails 3 times a day. And we had about a 79% open rate, which meant people really wanted to get the stuff. And I found out that the best way to get people to open the emails is to make it about them. So what does relevance mean? Relevance means find out how your audience likes to get their information and give it to them that way. And the easiest way to find out how your audience likes to get their information is simply to ask them. Because it's never been easier before, and never been easier than ever before to go out and simply say to your audience, hey, how do you like to get your information? How do you like it by email? Do you like it on the web? Do you want a podcast? I run in Central Park most mornings. I know it doesn't look like it, but I do. And I run in Central Park, and I'm listening to podcasts that I downloaded a couple hours earlier from the BBC, from the New York Times. They're auto-downloaded onto my iPod. And that's how I get my news. I don't have time to read a paper during the week or surf. I get my news. And if these podcasts didn't exist, I wouldn't utilize the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal or BBC. I'd get it from somewhere else. So they cater to me in a way that I want, so I'm loyal to them. If you can figure out what your audience wants and how they want it, they will love you for it. They will become invested in your company. They will feel like they matter. And when we have so many different ways to get information, so many different places we can go to get that information, having a vested and loyal audience is probably the greatest thing ever. Because they love you and they'll keep coming back. And if you don't think relevance works, I'm on the board of a nonprofit animal society in the Midwest. And I found out about them because in my spare time I jump out of airplanes. I'm a licensed skydiver. And Sarah still won't let me take her. But I'm a licensed skydiver. I did about 400 or 500 jumps. And about, it was in 2006, a friend of mine was killed in a base jump. A skydiver friend of mine was killed when her parachute didn't go during the base jump. And her husband said, donate, instead of sending flowers, donate some money to this animal rescue where she worked once a year and volunteered. And so I sent him a check. And about 4 months later, I get a thank you card and a coffee table book, a big, heavy, hardcover coffee table book full of pictures of the animals as a thank you for my donation. And I remember thinking to myself, I lived in a very small apartment at the time. I thought to myself, what the hell am I going to do with this book? I'm going to look at it once. I'm going to put it in a corner. I'm never look at it again. I didn't even have a coffee table at the time. And I'm like, why would they waste so much money on printing, mailing, and production of this book? How much of my donation did it cost to make this book that I'm never going to look at? Why wouldn't they send me a website or a link or a YouTube video or something like that? And the more I thought about it, the more pissed off I got, so I called them. And they said, well, sir, we believe most of our donors are older. I think she said, and as such can afford a coffee table. But I said, but did you ask them? Did you find out? Said, no, we just assumed. I'm like, okay. So I opened my mouth and I joined their board. And over the next year, we interviewed every current and past donor to find out how they like to get their information. And shock of shocks, 94% said they like to give it online. So we launched a YouTube page, a Facebook channel, a Flickr account, everything, Twitter account. And the following 12 months, their donations went up 37%. And they saved over $500,000 on printing, mailing, and production. Imagine going to your boss and saying, hey, I listened to our audience a little bit, and I made a couple of tweaks, and I've saved us $500,000 in costs, and I increased revenue by 37%. Your boss is going to buy you some really, really nice beer. Understand your audience. Listen to them. They will tell you what they want. And the only thing stopping you from doing that is the fact that you don't listen. Listen to your audience. Let them tell you what they want. Give them what they want the way they want it. And you and your company will become below. That's rule 2. That's relevance. Rule 3 is a fun one. Rule 3 is the concept of brevity. So, none of you are going to understand this because it's weird. What's your name? How old are you? 22. Okay, so, long before you were born, all the way back in the 80s, early 80s, a bunch of guys get together and they said, we want to take the songs you hear on the radio. Radio is like Pandora before the internet. They said, we're going to take the songs you hear on the radio and we want to make little movies about these songs. And we're going to call these movies videos. They actually created a television station to play these videos, and they called it MTV. And I know this makes no sense to you because as long as you've been alive, MTV's been a reality channel. But I swear to you, before like Snooki, or before, what are they, I'm 13 and pregnant, or whatever shit before this. Kids my age, we used to run home in the 80s from high school every day to see, like, it was called the 4 o'clock world premiere video. Okay, and it was like Madonna, she's like Lady Gaga with more kids. Or Michael Jackson, who convinced, by the way, in 1984, convinced 8 million white kids that we could dance. And it was totally a prank, we couldn't. I mean, yeah, it's funnier when you realize in the 80s Michael Jackson was black. But we used to like come home every day and dance, pretend to think that we could dance, and watch this stuff. And God forbid you were in our way, you were in our way to prevent us from watching MTV. Well, there was an attorney general under Ronald Reagan. His name was Ed Meese. And Ed Meese did 2 things during his time under Reagan. He was responsible for the Ed Meese Commission on Pornography, which spent $75 million to determine that Americans like porn. We've done that for $5, I'm sure it's not a lot. The other thing he did was the Ed Meese Commission on the Dumbing Down of America. He believed that Americans, especially teenagers, were getting stupider because MTV was giving them only a 3-minute attention span. Okay, you only had 3 minutes to get your point across. And he thought we were going to lose the Japanese because America was getting stupid because of the MTV, as he called it. Anytime someone in political power puts the word "the" in front of something that doesn't need it, question him. The Twitter, the Facebook, the MTV. Be aware. You're out of touch. But, so he holds all these hearings on the dumbing down of America because he believes the 3 minutes, 3-minute attention span for those kids is going to make them useless in the future. Well, I look around the room today, and every single one of you is either on your computer or your phone or texting or doing whatever it is. That's cool. I get it. I do it all the time too. We live in a very ADHD world. Okay? Or I actually was diagnosed with something called ADOS, which, if you haven't heard, is attention deficit, shiny. And we live in a world where we don't have a lot of attention because we give it away. According to a study done, I think it was at Stanford about 3 or 4 years ago, the average attention span for someone between the ages of 18 and 45, when presented with something they'd never seen before, is roughly 2.7 seconds. I'd give my right arm to have a classroom full of people that would listen to me for 3 straight minutes. Are you kidding me? 2.7 seconds. That means that we are, on average, are asked for our attention 17,000 times a day. That's kind of hard. If you work in business or you work in marketing for a company, social, you're trying to get people to pay attention to you, well, it's you, excuse me, and 16,999 other companies that want their attention. Excuse me. Plus things like stoplights, email, dates, food, millions of things that want your attention. So, how do you reach an audience that is looking everywhere every 3 seconds? And you have to be compelling. You have to be compelling in how you communicate with them. How do you be compelling? It starts off with basics, you guys. Learn to write. Learn to communicate better. Take more classes. Bad writing is destroying America. Bad writing, bad communication skills will destroy any business, anywhere. Because if you can't spell, let's say you're a pet kennel, you can't spell, how the hell am I going to trust you to take care of my cat? Okay? United got in a world of hurt yesterday because they had a computer glitch that allowed 40,000 people in 2 hours to buy flights to Germany in first class from New York for $70. And as soon as they realized the computer glitch, of course they killed it, and they won't honor any of the flights. Because, it's like a $15,000 trip. And people got the tickets for $70. And they're getting a world of crap this morning from all the newspapers. Oh, you should honor the tickets. No, the tickets. Come on. You're not that stupid. You're smart enough to know that $70, you should not be paying $70 for a first-class ticket to Germany. But someone screwed up. And even though that's okay, how they handle it is going to determine their fate. You've got to be better at presenting. You've got to be better at communicating. You have to be better. And here's the beauty of it. You don't have to be that great. Just one level above crap. Because most other people will suck for you. And so if you're applying for a job and there are 5 people out there, 4 of them are probably going to suck. All you have to do is be a little better than that. What does that mean? Make sure you're spelling right. Make sure you're using words related to the position you want. Make sure you're dressing the part. Make sure you're early. I don't remember the last time I came up to Fordham. I grew up in Manhattan, but I rarely ventured up this way. And I got off, I think, 2 subway stops early. Just by mistake, I wasn't paying attention. ADOS. And I'm like, oh, where am I going? Oh, shit, I'm nowhere near the university. God damn it. All right, well, I can go back to the subway or I can just walk there. I started walking, and I looked on Google Maps, and I realized how far away I was, and I looked at the time, and I realized it was only 9:15. Why? Because I go everywhere, and I make sure I'm early. Because you never know what stupid shit's going to happen to make you late. And if you're going in for an interview, or you're going in to meet with a reporter or whatever, and there are 3 other people doing it, chances are at least 2 of them are going to be late. If you're there 15 minutes early, you're going to win. 15 minutes early is on time. Try and remember that. I wrote a blog post that I encourage you guys to read on Shankman.com last week that said, if you're late, I'm done with you. Because I had like 4 meetings last week, and like 2 of them, 3 of them, the people were late or just completely late. I'm like, this is bullshit. I don't want to become that guy who sits there and hikes up his, his pants to his shoulders and shouts, get off my lawn, but come on. It's not that hard to be on time, and you'll make a better impression. So, brevity just means be more professional. I'll tell you this story. I got a resume 5 years ago from a woman who went to Harvard. I heard that's a really good school. I went to Boston University, so I don't know. But I went to Harvard, and the last line of her cover letter said, Mr. Shankman, again, I want to reiterate how much I'd welcome the opportunity to work for you. Watch me. To work for you. Did y'all catch that? She used letters and numbers. She said how much I'd welcome the opportunity to work, the number 4, the letter U, in a cover letter. If this doesn't scare you, it should. It should. Please make it scare you. If you ever send me a cover letter with numbers and letters in it instead of actual words, I swear to God I will mock you until the end of time. So I sent this girl back a letter. I said, dear so-and-so, you will not be working for me. And if you don't learn to write, you will be working for McD's. Wait for it. LOLs, Peter. So I encourage you, just be a little bit better. Become better writers. Take an extra class, something. Because that's all you need. Chances are that's all you need to be better than everyone else, to get the job, to get the client, to impress the boss, whatever it is. We've all been there. Ask anyone, ask Sarah, ask me, anyone our age, we've dealt with this constantly. There's always going to be one idiot who doesn't do whatever. My favorite is when people email me the wrong thing and then try to recall it, but I don't use Microsoft, so I can, not only am I going to see the email, but now that I've seen so-and-so would like to recall the email, I'm going to immediately read it. There are very few second chances with technology in today's age. So that's rule 3. Rule 4, we kind of already covered. It's the concept of being top of mind. When Barry Diller, who was the head of Paramount at the time in the 70s, he took the job as the president of Paramount Pictures when Paramount was in last place in Hollywood and was the worst studio in Hollywood. They were like 5 feet from bankruptcy. And everyone said, oh, this is the stupidest move, don't take this job, you're going to ruin your career. And he did 2 things. He got in the office a half an hour early and he called 10 random people every morning just to say hi. 10 random people in his Rolodex just to say hi. Rolodex guys was like Outlook, but at cards. And he would get, no one thought that funny, I thought that was hysterical. He'd go and he'd call these 10 random people and he'd just say hello. He'd ask them what you're working on, what are you doing in Hollywood, how's the weather in LA, what are you doing in New York, what's going on in Vegas. He'd just say hi. When you're in a movie you want it greenlit, or you're an actor you want to sign to a 5-picture deal, you could have gone to 20th Century Fox or Warner Brothers, or you could have called Barry back, because Barry was top of mind, because he had called a couple of weeks ago to say hi. He wouldn't want anything, he wasn't selling anything, he just called to say hello. And you remembered that, and you call him back. And between 1978 in 1987, Paramount Pictures was responsible for such films like Top Gun, Flashdance, Footloose, 3 Men and a Baby, Officer and a Gentleman, Ghostbusters, Beverly Hills Cop. And Barry Diller took Paramount Pictures from the worst studio in Hollywood to the first billion-dollar studio. Just by reaching out and saying hi. So I encourage you guys not to email people just when you need something, but email them just to say hi and ask how you can help. The future is going to be this, and this is how I'll wrap it up. I'll take questions if you want. I know it's been a little disjointed, but I hope it was useful. The future is this. The last 30 or 40 years have been all about self-promotion. Look at how awesome I am, right? Look at that, the advertisement that says how great I am. Everything that says how amazing I am, you should buy from me, or you should hang out with me. We've become too cynical for that. As personally, as a society, and as people. It's no longer about, look at how awesome I am. No one believes how great you are anymore if you're the one that has to tell them. So I'll end it with a story. What's your name? Hallie, and what's your name one more time? Julie. Hallie and Julie. Hallie and Julie are hanging out. They're at home. I've never seen Hallie before. I go over to her and I go, you know, you don't know me, but I'm awesome. Seriously, you should finish your drink and come home with me. I'm that great. You're going to throw your drink in my face and go back talking to your friend. That's exactly what's happened. I've done a lot of research. But if she's sitting there talking to her best friend Julie, who she hasn't seen in, you know, they've been friends for years, they're just catching up, whatever, and I'm sitting over there playing Angry Birds. Oh my God, that's Peter Shankman. I met him. He does a lot. He lives right near you. He has a cat. He's both single. You should totally go talk to him. I'm going to bring him over. At the very least, I'm getting it done. Because a trusted source suggested that you should. We don't believe TripAdvisor. We don't believe Yelp. We believe the people we trust. We believe our friends. We believe the people in our network. And as the future continues to unfold into this world where everyone you meet is in your network, the people who you have the trusted relationships with are going to be the ones advising you where to eat, whether it's your favorite sushi place, your favorite airline, where to bank, where to shop, where to date, where to hang out, where to work out, everything. And the businesses that provide the best experiences are going to be the ones who are talked about most. So I encourage you, as you continue to move through social and end up getting industry jobs and things like that, focus on being the best you can be. So essentially, don't be stupid. And then focus on making wherever you are an experience that's just a couple of levels above what most people expect. It's not hard, and that's pretty much all you need to succeed. So I'm going to give you guys my email, because I answer all my own email. And if you ever have questions or want to follow up, it's peter@shankman.com, which is my first name of that. So SHANKMAN.com. Yeah, I blog at shankman.com. I'm at Peter Shankman on most every social network. If I can ever help you guys out, you're welcome to call. Are you all from New York? You all from the... No, where are you from?
Awesome.
Really?
Windy City.
Yeah, what do you get? Anyone grow up in public schools in New York? Where'd you go to high school?
Well, I went to public school up until high school.
Okay.
And then I went to Ford and Prep over here.
Okay. Who else? Anyone else? High school in the city? Where'd you go?
Well, I live in Westchester, so
Okay.
last thing.
Yeah, that sort of doesn't count. Anyone else? No? Okay. I'm always a fan of New York City. I'm a New York City public school kid, so I'm always a fan of the New York City. Oh, cool. Thank you, Professor Morgan, for having me. You guys have any questions? Anything else I can answer? Because you've been so vocal and active the whole time, I can't imagine what else you
Alright, so got half an hour. You can hang out if you want. You want to hear them talk about their projects, which is super exciting.
Why not?
You just want to ride back to the subway.
No, I'm not. No, I was actually going to walk home.
Are you?
I'll actually go to the real subway station. So, yeah.
Well, even that seemed like it was really far away.
It's New York City. I walked from the hotel. I walked from the Prospect to the airport in Vegas yesterday, and I walked onto the airport, and the cop actually pulled up. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "Go to here." He's like, "You can't walk here." I'm like,
Yeah.
"It's a road. It's a street. I can." Apparently, they don't walk in Vegas.
Well, how hot was it?
The cop, no, it was like in the 70s, but it's like you're not allowed to walk to an airport.
Yeah.
What if you got a car?
Okay.
Anyway.
So, I'm so excited because next week I think we'll actually, I'm totally going to jinx it by saying it, but I think we'll actually have a class where we get to talk about things. So when you look at the schedule is like 3 topics back. That's going to be changed. I think we're actually going to get another speaker added in to talk about analytics specifically. And that was actually what I went in really looking for the class, because I know there's so much going on in the details of analytics, and I work in areas that touch on it, but I don't really get into the nitty-gritty. So that's something I'm excited about. But I wanted to open things up because I know the week after that is your midterm projects. And for their midterm projects, they have to take 3 brands and look at, kind of judge their social personas, what you think they've done right, what you think they could have done better.
Cool.
So I don't know if you guys have started it yet. You might not have. That's totally okay.
Huh.
Well, I'm trying to be realistic.
No.
I like to pretend that maybe they didn't. But I just wanted to open it up if you have questions about that, if there's anything you want to know, if there's any clarification you need. Because I know we haven't actually been here and talked about stuff in person.
Could we look at a specific sports team and
Absolutely.
their account, we could use them too,
Yeah.
not just a company?
No, it doesn't have to be a company at all. No, definitely.
Technically, a sports team is a company.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's entirely open. So if there's, if there's something related to an internship you have, go for that, because don't do double work. Focus on that. If you're not working on an internship, anything you're interested in, and it's something you'd follow anyway. I don't want you to have to go out and like, I'm going to follow Microsoft because that sounds important. No. Pick something you care about, because that's going to make it more interesting for me to read, frankly.
Do you want us to focus on brands that are connected, or
Brands that are what?
connected, as in the same industry, or so we can compare them, or maybe?
There's an argument that if you do focus on brands that are connected, it will be easier for you to write the paper, because there will be more to talk about and you'll be able to compare it. I'm not going to say you have to, but it might make it easier for you to do. And I assume at this point everybody saw the update on Facebook, so you know you don't need to do your presentations. I figured you might be slightly heartbroken about that, but frankly, we're like a month short on class. So your papers were impressive, and I like them, and I'm willing for that to count as your grade if you are, so yay. And yeah. Let's see, I think it's Thursday of next week is the speaker from Google, which is why we're doing a Google Hangout, because he's from Google. As long as that worked for you, I don't know if you were testing it from here or you were testing it in your dorm or wherever. Anybody who did test it, where were you?
I was at my house and I was stressed.
Okay.
Yeah, I was in my apartment.
I
Okay.
was in Vegas.
Thank you.
It was beautiful.
Super. Well, I was trying to think of something that I could leave on for 5 hours that would be moving, and frankly, I don't have a clock, because I just use my phone. So that was the only thing I could think of, like, leaving on for 5 or 6 hours, other than, like, moving everything out of the office and putting the TV on, but that would be a pain in the ass. So yeah. So yeah, I think we're good, and maybe, God willing, we will almost get caught up. So I'm going to update the schedule. Next week, like I said, is probably not going to be about analytics. We'll probably drop back to, what did we miss? I think we're at the democratization of creativity. And that kind of relates, that's why it was that week, because that would have been awesome to talk about with Allison. Oh well. We'll bring it back. It'll be fine. All right. So yeah, if you guys don't have any more, yes.
So the Google Hangout's at 10.
The Google Hangout will be at 10. Yeah. It'll be the regular class time.
And that's Thursday?
Yes? You're making me question myself. Yes. It's Thursday the 19th. Yes. So, and if that works, I think that's how we'll do the additional speakers, because he's coming from Canada. Well, he'll be in Canada. He's not coming from anywhere. And then we have one more from DC, and then someone from Vegas. So, assuming the tech works. What?
I know exactly, just based on what they are, exactly who you've
No, you don't.
Yes, I do.
Who?
Jeff Carter.
Nope.
And, no, not Jeff. And Greg Brooks.
No.
Really?
Wrong on both.
Okay.
Kind of wrong, because it is a friend of Jeff's. Yeah, he works for Homeland Security.
Cool.
At the EPA. And then Dave Nacarney, actually.
Oh, good. Okay.
Because he just started working for Heyman Boxing, and they're bringing
Yeah.
boxing back to primetime for the first time in like 30 years, and he's ridiculously social about entertainment brands. So that'll be good. Yeah, so assuming next week works okay, we will try to stick with the Google Hangout, just because I don't want you guys to have to keep switching technology, because that's just a pain. Sure.
What do we have to do for Tuesday? Is there anything that we have going on?
For Tuesday,
It's a Monday schedule.
yes, Tuesday will be the Monday schedule, so class won't be on Monday. It will be on Tuesday. There is nothing you'll need to prepare for that, because we're trying to actually go back to a normal lecture and catch up on things. So Tuesday will ideally be catch up on a bunch of topics. There may be work coming out of that, but there won't be going into it. Good question. Yeah.
Can the speakers see us?
Ha!
That's an excellent question.
On Google
and
Hangouts, you can shut off your camera either way.
you can shut off your camera.
That's fine.
I don't know. I've never done a hangout on air.
They
I know
can-
with a regular
No,
hangout,
on
you see
air,
them in the bottom.
on air they can be seen if you select it, but
Okay.
usually the default is not.
Okay.
Can't they see if
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. I mean, because they're not. You're the one listening to them. It's more important that you see them.
Yeah. Good question. Okay. I think we're good. I'll take you back to the subway. It was a hike when Allison went.
It's all quite. But, yeah, somewhere. I might be lying. No, I do. Where's my bag?
You ever seen that? It's all good.